All right, so Assassin's Creed Mirage, it came out. We all checked it out. We all played it, the ones that wanted to, anyways. And at a $50 price point, I think most likely everybody's probably very hit or miss with Assassin's Creed Mirage. There was a lot of good, a lot of kind of iffy moments in Mirage. In all honesty, I mean, I've done what we've had 16 years worth of Assassin's Creeds and just about as many games and spin-offs and mobile games to PSP titles to you name it, it's been there. We've done side scrolling, all that stuff. I'm not going to get into like the whole lineage of Assassin's Creed, but um, this was so for $50, you got what you paid for. Assassin's Creed Mirage. It is roughly, I would say, it felt like about half the length of Valhalla. Just baseline game, not with all the extra DLC. And technically, that was actually also with a pre-order DLC that was packaged in with it too. So we have so Mirage was pretty much supposed to be like a throwback to the original Assassin's Creed 1 with Altair, which in some ways it is. There is a lot of kind of the way the map is set up, the way that the Brotherhood is shown in Mirage. It does definitely give you that kind of nostalgia feel of like, oh, I remember Altair going through all this stuff. It really, really feels like, and I, if I remember right, there was some stuff going around of like rumor mill stuff, which I don't like to incorporate too much into this, but I think it's probably correct in saying that Mirage started out as being an Assassin's Creed 1 remastering of sorts. Not a remake. They weren't going to change stuff, but it was just like, updating it to be in like modern day feel to Assassin's Creed 1. And that got turned into Mirage, where it gives, Basim an extra sideline story, which is basically what Mirage is. It's telling the story of how Basim gets turned into pretty much low key, which if you didn't play through Valhalla all the way, or you just didn't care to, like, I didn't really care to go through all of the what is it, Asgard, the the godly portion of Valhalla. So there was the whole thing of like, who is Basim and what is happening with him seeing like throughout the story of Mirage. Again, spoiler warning, this is a spoiler thing, it's on the title, spoiler warning and all that. But we are going to be getting into a lot of spoiler stuff for this. So there is this from the very get go. There is this girl that is hanging around with Basim, and nobody else is talking to her. Nobody else is really interacting with her. She's not talking to anybody else, and this got pointed out on a video. I'm like, yeah, that's very true. Which I didn't really catch it because it's been a few years now since Valhalla came out. And in all honesty, I did skip over a lot of like the whole like godly storyline stuff of of Odin and Thor and Loki and all that stuff. I was just kind of like, normally what you'd expect of Assassin's Creed is that you go through and it's like a history book come to life and you're running around, whether it's England or Jerusalem or, now, Egypt and France and all that. So it's the storybook come to life is what I come for when it comes to Assassin's Creed. And I know a majority of everyone does. That's what we started our love for Assassin's Creed off with. And Mirage is no different. You get to see, ancient Baghdad. You get to see just how much of a desert it is with just buildings in the map. And that's one of my little bit of a criticisms is just like, there is really no variety in the maps whatsoever at all. It is just desert. I mean, that is Baghdad. And I get, that is Baghdad, but I don't know. Is that really what ancient Baghdad would be? Is just deserts and a few buildings here and there? It's like, man, I just feel like they could have gone somewhere else with it that makes a little more of a map variety. After Valhalla, and then you go over to Baghdad, it's a very different take on the scenery and all that. And again, it's one of the weird things about the storyline is that Basim, you don't ever get the whole picture of how Basim met up with Sigurd and came back to meet up with Ivor and all that. You don't really get the sense of how any of that happened because there is no storyline to connect the dots there. There is no, maybe there's going to be a side DLC or something there, but as far as I've seen, there is no DLC to connect any of that stuff, which is kind of weird. But seeing a form of the Brotherhood be there and seeing, because this does take place after Origins and all that, but seeing that there is a form of the Creed also in the world, I did really like that because, again, it brings it back. It just gives you that feeling of Assassin's Creed 1 that I feel like they were going for with this of like, okay, so everybody, there is a creed that everybody is really trying to follow. Basim gets brought into the Brotherhood, which is, it actually makes us feel like an Assassin's Creed. The last few of them, the last few Assassin's Creeds didn't feel even, it just felt like Ubisoft's adventure game with some, stealthy takedowns. It didn't fully feel like an Assassin's Creed. And this one is really like, okay, now we're back at Assassin's Creed status. The problem with that is the combat is still terrible. Even more so than Valhalla or even Odyssey, in which I've gone on about how I didn't really care for all the, the godly moves that are in, all the special abilities that are in Odyssey or Origins, or was it Origin? Well, Odyssey and Valhalla that had like these like godly moves. You can boom, you come down, or you Spartan kick somebody and they go flying off a ledge or something. Again, I would much rather see the history be rooted in reality of what is going on. Things be explained in a rooted reality type of a way. But yeah, seeing the Brotherhood though, and seeing the Creed come back to where it's like, okay, Basim is in the middle, like the Creed is there. He gets the finger chopped. He gets the hidden blade. They go through the ritual of bringing him into the Brotherhood. He is now going by the tenets of the Creed that, shall not kill innocent lives, and all that, which I find that to be very, very cool. And that was probably one of the highlights of Assassin's Creed Mirage, is the fact that they are going to the Brotherhood side of things. They are bringing Basim in as a mainstay character of the Brotherhood, and he is now in the history books as being so. And Basim, he starts out as Basim, the regular character, but there is that, again, they're trying to also factor in the Isu storyline. They're trying to cram down the gods, storyline, the godlyhood of Basim has low key in, somewheres is lingering in his psychology of the character that he is. Low key is there. So yeah, it's one of the things to go to the ending of the story. And again, big major spoiler alert. One of the main things, but this goes into two different directions. So the plot twist that that you end up figuring out of, Loki was caught inside the machine, and then once you figure that stuff out, then now Loki is now he basically takes over Basim, killing kind of Basim's mind or whatever. So that was a very cool plot twist, and at the same time, because it had been so long since I played through Valhalla, and seeing all the the god sides, or the godly side of the storyline of Valhalla, it didn't click, and I was like, what the hell's going on? Which I think, if you are here, here's my big recommendation. If you're thinking about playing through Valhalla, I have to highly recommend now playing through Mirage. Even though the combat is terrible on Mirage, like one of the main things on Mirage is there's only one animation of attack pattern. There's not multiple ones for each different weapon and everything. You basically just use one sword throughout the whole game. It is just a one sword. You have one. It's like you hit him in the throat or whatever. You spin the blade around, stab him in the back, or stab him in the chest or whatever it is. Pull it out. You put the sword back, and that's it. You just do that over and over and over again. You click the L1. You ting. You parry him up. You stab. You ting, and then you bang. You stab. So it's basically just that combat over and over and over again. Which again, that's pretty damn terrible considering where we came from with the original Assassin's Creed, where we're coming from also, even with the abilities that I was like, I don't like the Dark Soulsy, I don't mind the Dark Souls feel to it. It's the big ability stuff that you have, like that, the the special ability bar or whatever you want to call it. Um, and them taking that away, but then they didn't go back to the old system of where you could chain combo, because that's one of the old staples of original Assassin's Creed combat formula was chain combo. So if you open somebody up and you get the one ching and you slice them in the throat, and then you fling and you go, it combos right from that. They pull it out, they swing the sword or something, slice that guy's throat, swing the sword over again, stab the next guy in the gut or whatever, and you just chain. You're just taking out. You can take out 12 to 15 enemies, 20 enemies, whatever, if you have your rhythm down. And you just keep hitting the button at the right time to keep taking out everyone around you. It just makes you feel like a badass. That is sorely missing in Mirage, and I don't know if they were trying to go for that or not, but it definitely is something that is absolutely missing. Hell, I would have taken the big giant abilities over top of having a dumbed down version of the combat system. And again, I will say a dumbed down version, because it really is. There is barely any. I get it. It's $50 for this, basically like a side game. And that's actually one of the things too, is like, I don't know if this is because Valhalla is one of the main entry ones. We don't have like Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 4 anymore. We never really got an Assassin's Creed 5. We've gotten, Black Flag. We've gotten, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Yes, it was. We've gotten, Origins. We've gotten Odyssey. We've gotten Valhalla. Now we've gotten Mirage. And it's just like, okay, so Mirage is it's so much smaller than the last 3 Assassin's Creeds. It definitely feels like a side project, but then again, I think they are going, because they have what? It's like 5 Assassin's Creeds in the making right now. Are all these Assassin's Creed games going to feel like side games, like spin-off games? There we go, spin-off. That's the word I'm looking for. And that's one of the things where I'm like, so is Assassin's Creed just going to feel like a spin-off series now? Like the size and scope of what they built up to, and then they're scaling it back to do this now. I would love to see the customization of Valhalla, but like the combat of Assassin's Creed 2 or like Brotherhood or something. If they went in that direction, I think it would bring a lot more players in, because more customization is always better. And that brings me into the whole fact of, for the last like 3 or 4 Assassin's Creeds, I've lost count now, you don't get the Master Assassin outfit until the tail end. Like, basically, it's the final mission is when you get the Master Assassin. I think it was actually a final mission, because I did a couple side quests with it, because I was like, oh, I just got the Master Assassin's outfit. I'm going to do a couple side quests with it, because I just barely got this. So you don't actually get your Master Assassin stuff until tail end of the game. Now, if you remember back in Assassin's Creed with Ezio, okay, so Altair starts off basically with the Master outfit that he goes through all the way to the end of the game. That was product of the time. They could have added another outfit in. Okay, I think the outfit, if I remember right, it upgrades, so you get like an extra belt, you get an extra little knife pouches and such, and then of course by the time you're at the end of Assassin's Creed 2 with Ezio, he just kind of like, just adds on to like the skirt of the cloak and all that. But again, it's just like every single one of Assassin's Creed, like Odyssey, you don't even get the Assassin's outfit until you get the DLC, which was super mind-blowing. Valhalla is kind of the same way. You don't really get the Assassin's outfit until towards the tail end of the game, when you're officially like in the Brotherhood. Is it part of the Brotherhood? Jeez, Valhalla is so long. I've forgotten what is Valhalla and what is the DLC, and what happens in the regular storyline of Ivor, and what the hell happens with Odin. I have totally, everything is just blended together. So maybe Valhalla was a little too long in that aspect. There was a lot of story being told, and most of it was really good. I will give them credit where credit's due. Like the Valhalla overall was a pretty damn good Assassin's Creed. Mirage feels like it's almost too short. Not enough combat, not enough customization whatsoever. Like there's barely any outfits in it. I get it. Again, it's a $50 title, but at the same time, it's like, man, you gotta give us a little extra in this, even if you are going to charge $50. And yeah. So to be honest, it actually, again, to go back to the lore of the ending and what the plot twisty stuff that ends up happening, I literally had to look up a lore video of like, okay, so just the way it's told, where there is this like mythological creature that is stalking Bazem and all that. I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? And then also, like, the manifestation, I guess you could say, of Loki. So Loki throughout Valhalla looks like Beza. It's like, okay, but in Mirage, Loki is a girl, like a younger, I don't know, maybe she's like 18, 19-year-old girl. And that was the most confusing thing ever. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Why? Like, at first I was like, oh, it's Layla. So Layla's trying to get a hold of Bazem because Bazem, kind of swapped places with Layla in the modern day era. And this is like Bazem goes back in time to try and. Why is Bazem's story even being told? Why is Mirage even a thing at that point? But yeah, it's just a very weird story. Ever since they tried to go, and I seen somebody say, ever since they tried to go in the direction of the gods and like Thor and Loki and Odin and all that, as in Odin being Ivor and all that. And like the staff of Hermes and all, like, ever since they've been trying to cram that into the storyline's been getting very confusing and very convoluted. There's 3 storylines going on, and they're all very well connected together, but it's just like the telling of the story and the pacing of the telling of the story. I feel like Valhalla should have been Valhalla should have been just Ivor's story. And then come out with all the Asgard stuff. Should have been either another game in the series, or because especially with the way that Mirage is telling a story too with Bazem, it just feels like Mirage could have been like the starting like, take Mirage and you take all the godly stuff out of Valhalla, set it off to one game, and then you have Ivor and all that, and Sigurd and everybody's storyline over here in another game. And it just feels like they tried to cram everything together, and probably they'll end up saying it's because of all the COVID stuff in the 2020, all that. But to me, it just feels like there was pacing issues because of them trying to cram so much story into something that should have been two separate games. Maybe it was an Ubisoft thing. It could have been Ubisoft was just like, no, you need to make this into one product. We're not going to fund so much stuff. But one of the other weird things too with Mirage, there is no modern day. There's no modern day story being told. So again, Mirage, it could have just been part of Odin and Loki and Thor's storyline, just separately from Valhalla, because it is like a prequel to Valhalla. The problem is you don't see the prequel storyline of Loki and this is where the storyline is just like it's like, I don't know if convoluted is the right word for it, but it's just like it's so weirdly put together on pacing, because Loki has 2 different stories going on, with Bazem also having 2 different stories going on, with there being 3 stories of modern day, ancient times, and then way in the past with the gods. And we're supposed to make sense of all this and keep track of all of it. So yeah, there is no mention of the modern day era Loki or Layla. And that's what I thought. Maybe the girl that again was Layla, trying to talk to Bazem to get Bazem to take over the mental manifestation of Loki in Bazem's head. That didn't show up. That wasn't it. Basically, it's almost like they're retconning Layla off from Valhalla. And then even though Valhalla was the last game in the series, again, like they need to get all this storyline writing stuff. They need to bring it back to where it actually pacing wise and just separate the damn stories a little bit more so you can actually make sense of everything. um One thing also that I seen was somebody made a video going over all the legendary assassin statues in Assassin's Creed 2 underneath the Chateau Auditore, I do believe it's called, um, which is the room with all the statues in it of all the different assassins. And all of those statues. So this is something that I was going to go into, but somebody already kind of made a video on it. I was like, okay, this is super interesting, cool. There is full on lore for most all the statues. I think there's only one statue in there there's like one character in the Assassin's Creed line, or in the Assassin's Brotherhood lineup, that doesn't really have a whole lot of storyline behind them. But everybody else, I mean, hell, there's two assassins that they could easily make games around, but because we're stuck in this like Norse mythology, if you will, of, they're just trying to cram all the godly storyline down into the main storyline of, the ancient storyline, I guess you could say. Jeez, you have a mythology storyline, you have an ancient storyline, you have a modern storyline, and then you have like the Isu storyline. So you technically have 4 universes going on at one time. But yeah, hopefully in the future, there's 2 of them. There's 2 different assassins that they could really go into, which was one of them that took down the Mongols and one of them that took down Alexander the Great, I think it was. And I 100% agree. If we could get away from the godly stuff and go into that, back into the era of you're just taking down, like Ezio was on the mission to take down the what was it, the bishop or whatever that destroyed his family and set him on the path to being an assassin. Like, if we could get back to that type of thing and just root it back into reality of what history was trying to tell. Odyssey was kind of doing it, but then you had a lot of mythology still being forced into there. Origins too was on a good path to doing that. I think Valhalla did a decent job in the Ivor storyline. It's just, like I said, the godly storyline, just trying to cram that in there. So yeah, it's just a weird thing of, if it's what I was expecting, what I was actually hoping for was somewhere maybe towards the tail end, or just somewhere's in there. It would have had to have been the tail end, like even a flash forward, like, many years later or something, and all of a sudden Basim is talking with Sigurd and he's like, oh yes, I have this brother and we have this community, and all that, and if you come with us, then you can. And it just tie up that plot hole of, okay, so how the hell does Low-Key figure out about, just have this, sixth sense going on about, was it Sigurd is, I think was it Thor or something like that. Again, I didn't stay a lot into the gods side of Valhalla, but he has that sixth sense that there's something Isu going on with Ivor and Sigurd, and that's the reason why he comes over and meets Ivor, and he's like, you. And maybe I won't spoil that. I won't go into the reason why Low-Key is looking for Odin, which is Ivor, in the 2 different. I won't spoil that stuff. Go play Valhalla. You can check it out. This is where I highly recommend Mirage before Valhalla, because it's going to make Valhalla make a whole lot more sense. And also, if you've already played Valhalla, I would highly recommend, if you play through Mirage, go back and replay Valhalla. I actually plan to do this. Go back and replay Valhalla, and I think Valhalla is probably going to make a whole lot more sense of, just how, like, Basim's character is so much bigger now. There's so much more invested in his character. There's so much more lore around his character, and of course it's Low-Key, so it's like a central figure in the mythology of it all. Yeah, It's definitely it's interesting, but at the same time, it's so damn confusing on how they're trying to put everything together. Um, what is the other Assassin's? So all of a sudden, there's an Assassin's Creed Japan that we know of that's in the works. They already teased. So what is that going to have to do with the Valhalla stuff? Or are we done after Mirage? Are we done with all the Norse mythology? We're going into Japan now. Then there's a witches and warlocks one or something that they got planned too. Is that going to go into? It's the Ginny. I think that's what it was called. The like, how are they going to tie all this together? How are they going to bring it home? That's the they got a tall. They've almost made a mess out of the storyline, and now they have to figure out how the hell are we going to bring this all back into like one good solid chunk of storyline going forward. Again, you do have like 16 years worth of Assassin's Creed storyline stuff that you're working with, but the new era stuff, ever since Origins and going forward, almost has nothing to do with the pirate era. It has almost nothing to do with Altair and Ezio era, just in the fact that there's no like, so Assassin's Creed was going, this assassin has a kid, the bloodline goes down. Now that bloodline goes down to here. Now that bloodline goes down to here. And you could almost trace Altair all the way down to damn near, was it Connor and Haytham and all that. I do believe you can trace the bloodline just about all the way down through, unless they went with a different DNA sequence. And again, it's been 16 years worth of lore. It's hard to keep track of everything that's happening. But I don't know. I just feel like if you just go with that direction and stop going with the godly stuff and go back to just the assassins. Oh, the assassins are now Isu, and they are the old the Isu versus human war, and the solar flare wiped everyone out. And they have been building this, and they have been playing this for a long time. I just feel like everything that is going on, like four different universes happening at once. It's a little bit much. It's like you're trying to follow it, and you're just like, how does this all go together? You need like 6 different lore videos just to make sense of all the stuff that's happening. So yeah. Assassin's Creed Mirage, for the lower price points, there's less customization, there's less animation, you don't feel as much like a badass. One of the main things with the combat system, feeling like a badass, with that point, is because it's just ting slice, ting slice, ting slice. You do get some gadgets in there, but you don't really need to use them because you just go ting slice. The whole combat system is just centered around a parry into the same animation over and over and over and over again. That didn't happen with the older Assassin's Creeds. Before anybody wants to say, well, that's what Ezio did. No, Ezio had like 3 different animations for a sword, a spear, a giant 2-handed sword, whatever, a hammer. They all had different animations going on with them. A spear, all that stuff. Even Assassin's Creed Black Flag, even though I don't necessarily think that was the most responsive combat system, it still had more animation. Like Mirage, it almost feels, it feels like a budget Assassin's Creed in that way. And it's like a very polished up budget Assassin's Creed. It's very weird. Again, I don't know if that's what all the Assassin's Creeds are going to be feeling like going forward, if they're making this many different titles, because it just feels like they're trying. It's also the fan base has been split, and I've said this before, where you have all of us original Assassin's Creed fan base that want the history book, want it to be more rooted in reality, want that feel of, okay, I'm running around, you want to feel like you're like an ancient explorer, kind of like Tomb Raider meets James Bond or something, where it's like you're the assassin, but you're also exploring around and you're seeing history come to life. That's one Assassin's Creed. And then it feels like they're trying to go into like a mythos Assassin's Creed, which is tell all the stories of, what really has nothing to do with Assassin's Creed, although they're trying their hardest to pinpoint it into Assassin's Creed to keep the logo on it so everybody will buy it. And turn it into, again, the mythos. It's basically God of War. That's what they're trying to build, is Ubisoft's version of God of War, which is just like God of War do God of War. But yeah, that's Assassin's Creed Mirage. Would I recommend Assassin's Creed Mirage to finish this video out? If you want to play Valhalla, I would recommend picking up Mirage. I think Mirage should be packaged in with Valhalla as a 1-2 pack, or 2-pack, I guess, underneath a $70 price tag for both. I think at this point, because Valhalla is like 3 years old now, 4 years almost. I think that's where I'm at. Like Mirage, Valhalla, 2-pack, maybe $80 for both. And then I could recommend. But if you're just going into Mirage and you have no idea anything about Valhalla and you just didn't care about Valhalla, I don't even think I could recommend checking out Mirage, because the combat system, you're going to get bored with that combat system. I started to kind of get bored. What really kept me in was kind of the whole thing of like, it's almost like Dark Souls, where you're taking out the boss fights and you're just like, I want to see what the next boss fight's going to be. I want to see what the next setup, the next area is to take out this next target, which again, that is very core Assassin's Creed. But if you're looking for a very good storyline going on with all the historical representation and all that, I feel like I didn't learn anything about Baghdad's history. And if this thing is still trying to be a history book, I couldn't tell you who the hell was who in the whole everybody. It was literally just targets. Probably a part of it was the fact that everybody has, to me, they all sound like they have very similar sounding names, and I couldn't figure out like who the hell was who. There was a lot of there was a lot of the Baghdad. What was the language of Baghdad? The local language. There we go. We'll say it that way. There was a lot of the local language in it, and I was like, I'm so disconnected. I actually don't know what I would say is, Ubisoft, give us subtitles on the bottom of the screen, because a lot of people don't know what the characters are saying if they're speaking in the local language, which is cool, hearing the local language. I love seeing that. It's the local language is part of the culture. I want to see the culture. I want to see what is Baghdad like. I want to run around Baghdad virtually like that. But definitely give us more subtitles. It probably is subtitles. I just got them turned off. But at the same time, it just pop them up on the screen when you're going to say something in that foreign language. That, if your language is set to English and you have a foreign language on there, just make that happen like that. It's not even an accessibility thing. It's just so people can still stay in with the storyline, basically. So again, yeah, would I recommend Mirage? Maybe on sale. If you're looking for, the basic Assassin's Creed, taking out targets while running around a kind of barren map, sure. Yeah. So, anyways, Assassin's Creed Mirage, it's available on all platforms. Pick it up if you want to, but yeah, just beware. Just be wary. It's definitely a $50 title. And then also go and pick up Valhalla, which is actually kind of a cooler Assassin's Creed overall. It's more customization, more animations, way more of a story, especially if you add the DLC in. I'd say Mirage is maybe a quarter of what Valhalla is. So, yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for this. Go like, sub, and hit the bell notification, all the YouTube stuff. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you next time.